Guys, it's April. I was asked to do a video to show you guys how to use a button maker and how to set up the print and cut for those. We Are Memory Keepers just came out with one, and it is, I don't know what the cost of that thing is, guys, and I have not tested it. I don't know how good it will do, or what. This is more of an industrial type I got on Amazon, and I'll leave a link below. It may be a little different from this one. It may be the exact same one. But what you want to look for when you're doing that are your button sizes. And these should be interchangeable so that if you want to do different sizes, you can do different sizes, okay? So how do you find out what your sizes are? If your machine doesn't tell you, of course you're going to have to cut your paper to fit it, okay, so that they will work. This is what I did because mine didn't have a definite size, and if you look at your bases, this one is about 2 1/4 inches. But if you look at your transparency, and it's probably going to be a little difficult to see, you can see it's 2.75, okay? This is the size you want your paper. You don't want it to be this size unless you want some of this edge showing, okay? Then you can make it smaller. You want it to be the same size as that transparency, okay? It needs to be that same exact size. So that is one way that you can do it, and your back is going to differ even from that. This is just over, it looks like 2 1/8 of an inch. So keep in mind when you're doing these, if you're changing your sizes of buttons, you'll need to change your size that you're setting up for your print and cut as well. So let's pop over to Design Space, and let me show you how to set up your print and cut buttons for this. Okay, so here we are in Design Space, and all I did was hit New Project and got a shape and brought in a circle. Okay, so that's all you're going to do is bring in your shape. And you can see that I've already sized that. You can come up here and size it. We know that the size that I'm using is 2.75 or 2 3/4 inches. So I'm just going to change the size of the button. I'm not going to unlock it because we don't want it to oval out or anything like that. I'll just delete one. We only need one. Now the thing you need to remember with your buttons, what do you want your background to be? Do you want it to be an image? Do you want it to be a color? Whatever color you make the circle is what color your background is going to be. The only thing that doesn't print is white. White is your only color that will not print, okay? I like to do a background on mine and then flatten on top of that. So what I like to do, again, if you want it to be a color, now if I do this, it's going to be yellow, okay? But white is the general base that I start with, because I can go back and change that if I want. I like to duplicate one circle and hide it. That way I have one free one to work off of when I'm doing buttons. Also remember, you want to keep your button files separate. You don't want to do 2 or 3, but 2 or 3 buttons styles in a file, maybe max 6, because I know I got up around 6 or 8 buttons in a file, and it started bogging down on me. Design Space didn't want to open because all of those letters and stuff that you may use in there, all of your images, those are going to start bogging down once you get so many in there, and you'll see what I mean here shortly. So the first thing I want to do is add some images. So let's just go in and look for a flower, something that I might want to put on a button. And I'm just going to select a couple of things. Let's see. I know there's one in here that I really like. That's like a drawn. There we go. So maybe I want to use this or this. I'm going to go with the smaller one. So I've got a couple of images that I may want to use on my button, and you can use whatever you like. I know that this is drawn, and we can use that still. I can make this any color I want, and then I can select it and I can flatten it to that image. And my image is still there. I know that it's hard to see because it's white, so let's make this canvas a different color so that you guys can see. There we go. Don't need those. So here is the flower flattened on the canvas. And I can unflatten it at any time. If I do, I'm just going to change this back to no fill and bring this back over. So I'm just going to bring this back in. No fill. There we go. And I'm going to change it. Oops. I'm on the wrong image. That doesn't help. I'm going to go back to my circle and change that to white. There we go. And this one I'm going to change to no fill and draw. There we go. Get that. I don't want that to be solid in there. All right, so now I've got this, but what if I want to do a pattern behind it and have this on top? So the next thing I want to do, if I want to do a pattern, is come into the print right here. And then I am going to select it, and it's going to say a print type. Now I can make it a color, or I can choose a pattern. And I'm going to use a pattern, something that maybe I have in Design Space, or something I've uploaded. You can upload your own images. Let's see. Kind of like that. So I've got my roses in there, and now I want to come in here and I want to edit the pattern, and I want it to fill. You see how you have these lines here? You're going to work with the scale to get that in there. And I kind of like that right there, just one rose. You can flip it, you can move it horizontal, all sorts of different things. Flip it this way, flip it back, depending on what you want, okay? And I'm just going to close that, and now I have my button. But I want to draw or put something on the top of that. I can do that, okay? That's really not a good pattern for that. Let's go and look for a pattern. Let's go with maybe a pink, something in pink. Let's see what we got. I mean, you can make buttons doing anything, a summer party, anything. I may change my image too. This is the hardest part, is picking out what you want to be on the background of your button. And sometimes just a simple color is better. Kind of liked that watermelon right there. I'm going to go with that. Nice and summery. There we go. And I'm going to edit because I want it to be larger. I want it to show what it is, because I'm just going to put some wording on mine. I'm probably not going to put an image. That's really fun for a picnic. Let's move it over horizontal and get rid of that little edge. You want to check that. So I'm good with that. Let's go in and change my image. I don't want to do that. You can do the writing and the flattening. I could do a watermelon or a cupcake. That's really cute. Let's see. I'll just grab both of those. That's fine. Just going to go with that. Let it bring it in. And maybe I just want it to say, maybe it's a birthday party and I want it to say Sweet 16. So I'm gonna put that on there, and I'm gonna change that green to black so that it shows up. I'm gonna change my image around a little bit. That looks good. But I want that watermelon part to be green. So I'm gonna come in here and I'm going to duplicate it. I am going to contour, and I'm going to get rid of hide all contours. Let's get that one back and hide this one right here. So now I have that piece, and I want to make that a darker green. Brighter green, darker green. And then I'm going to come over here to this other one that I have right here, and I'm going to ungroup it I'm going to grab that and I'm going to contour, and I'm going to hide that piece at the top. So now I have sweet. I have my little watermelon slice that goes right over the top of that. How cute is this turning out? So I don't know if I can't change the opacity of that one. I don't believe. I don't think we have that option yet. Edit the pattern. Nope, we don't have that yet. Hopefully we'll get that one day. Might want to make it something a little bit lighter, but I'm just going to go with this for the tutorial purpose. And now I need some text, and I want to put 16. So whatever you're designing for your button, you can do that. Also pay attention. Make sure that you're staying in my button pattern is 2.75 inches. I'm going to get another circle just so you guys can see. And we're going to make that 2.5. I almost hit it. Let's change that to 2.5. That is the front of the button, okay? And I'm going to move that, send it to the back, and then move it forward once. I want to stay in that inside edge here, because if you don't, and I'll show you when we get back over to the other screen, this is going to be over the side of the button. So you want to make sure that you're keeping your text and your images and all of that within the realm of, or in the scope of your design there. Get that green one, and I'm just going to bump that down. Oop, that's a little too far. Let's see, maybe I want to bump that one down too. So I'm just going to line it up. That way I'm giving myself enough room around that edge. And I kind of like that just where it's at. I don't like that 16, so I'm going to come in here and look for a font that I like. I'm just going to go with some Cricut fonts here. Let's go with that one. That one's kind of quirky looking, like that. So now I've got everything like I want. I'm going to slide that out. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to flatten it. Okay? I can delete this. I don't need it. I'm going to keep that sizing there. So I know that this should work out on my button and stay right there in the front. Actually, I should have centered it, but I didn't. So make sure you center it up, get it where you want on the button, and then you're going to hit Make It. So the next thing you're going to do when you're over here, this is where you're going to change. If you're going to make multiple copies, you want to change it and apply that on this screen. Now I know out of experience I can get 6 of this size out of a print and cut. If you're doing smaller buttons, you're going to get more, and you will see that. So just if you apply and it's too many, you can see how it was splitted onto 2 screens. So you can always back it down, or you can add more until you have enough copies of what you need. And just because I'm having to print one, I may as well print a whole sheet. That way if I mess up, I have extras. If my button maker messes up, I have extras. You want to do that. Then you're going to send it to the printer. You want to leave your bleed on. That's just going to make sure you have edge-to-edge coverage. On this pattern, it probably won't matter much, but if your button is off just a little bit when you press it together, if you've got a white edge, it could show. So make sure that if you've got a solid color background, that you leave that bleed on. Use your system dialog, okay? And a lot of people don't know what that means, and that's so you can set up your printer preferences. And then we're just going to slide down. And you're going to see, after we hit print, you're going to see that that dialog box will pop up behind. And it may take it a moment. There we go. And then I'm just going to click on it and bring it to the front. Okay, right here, and yours may vary just a little bit. Okay, I don't need two-sided printing. I'm going to take that off. I'm going to look at my feed, and I'm going to use my rear tray. Actually, I can use my main tray. I'm okay. Auto select. That'll be fine. Because if I'm using a thicker paper, I'm going to use my rear tray, and that's what I'm used to. All of my buttons, guys, I print on copy paper. If you get your material too thick, your button will not go together well. So make sure that you're not using a heavy paper, okay? You don't want to do that. I'm going to select best quality, and then I'm going to click print. Now that's going to go over and print on my printer. And then I'm going to come over here to popular, and there's my copy paper. I'm going to select that, and we'll pop over to the machine and watch that cut. Okay, so here we are over at the machine, and I have my print cut, and I'm just going to place that right onto my mat, okay? And then we're going to load it, and I know I need to change my blade because I was doing a knife blade project earlier. So let me remove that. And then I'm just going to hit the cut button. And now the machine is going to read this registration box. This is why you can only print max area 6.75 by 925. Okay, that is your maximum print and cut area at this time with your machines and Cricut Design Space. And it will read that. If you're not getting a read on your registration box, you could have too much light in the room causing a reflection so that the sensor can't see it. The room could be too dark. If it's too dark, you need to, of course, get more light. And if it's too bright, you may want to close the lid of your machine just to give it a little bit of shadow. Sometimes you could even put your hand over while it's trying to read and shadow it enough so that you don't get that. If you're cutting a shiny material, which you shouldn't be for your buttons, because your transparency is going to cause that shine, then you can always put some matte Scotch tape over the edge of your registration box and get it to read that way. And we're just going to let those finish cutting, and then we're just going to pop right over here and we're going to put together a button. Okay, so I have pulled one off the mat, and I did a test and made sure that it was working. Actually, it wasn't a planned test. I forgot to turn the camera on. So here is, I peeled those off my mat. I'm leaving the others on my mat. And what you want to do is have your machine. Now, your machine may work a little bit differently from this, but just follow your directions. Mine, I am going to place the metal piece in, and that's with your rim down, which is your sharp edge down. Then you're going to place your paper into it, and then you're going to place your little clear transparency. You want to make sure you only have one transparency as well. And then you're going to push it over. This is the way mine works. And then you want to make sure that you're looking at your button, and sometimes you'll have little hanger-on things here which you can trim off or you can leave. It doesn't really matter. I will trim those off afterwards, after we get done with my little True Control knife. But you want to make sure that clasp is face down, okay? And you want to drop it into that second slot. So the first slot, we're just going to press down because we've got our button in there. And then when we move it over, you can see that it's gone from there. It's up in this top mechanism. And then we're going to press it down onto the base. And then when you push it back, you have your button. And you can see that my color went edge to edge, went up under there, and is perfect. Okay? So that is how you do the button maker, how you do your print and cut. And make sure that when you flatten them for your print and cut, that you have one single layer. And we'll pop back over and I'll show you that just to make sure that you don't get mixed up on that. Okay, so here we are, again, back over in Design Space. And come over and you will see, you hit finish because we've already done our print and cut. You see right here, all of my flatten is all in one layer. If you have a drop down up under this, that means you have attached or grouped or something, and it's going to cut two different layers. So if it's not one layer and you're seeing two layers there, that means you have attached and it's going to cut out of itself. Let me just unflatten this and I will show you. So if I were to attach that like this, it looks good, but right here, I don't know how people get it to do that, because I never can get it to do it. I can't replicate it. But if it's attached, you can see you have 2 layers. And then if you put something in here, and let's say that, align, let me just move this, put this in here, arrange, move it to the back. I think this is what they're doing, send to the back. They've attached that, and then they're flatten that watermelon. Okay, so it's got a, I still can't get it to do it. I don't know how they do it, but sometimes people say it's cutting out of the center and it's not supposed to, and it all is in the way you flatten it. So you want to make sure that you have all of your pattern in there, and then you want to bring in all of your images. You want to select it all. You want to select everything and then flatten so that you have one single layer. Again, if you've got more than 2 layers, I'll have to look and see how you have it set up. Just message me and I'll help you. But make sure that when you do your flatten, your print and cut, everything is flattened together and nothing is attached, because if it's attached, it's going to cut out of there. So you guys have a wonderful day. Happy crafting. And if you have any questions on how to lay out your print and cut for your buttons, just let me know.